Most people spend 6 months planning an international family vacation. But we had exactly 11 days. 10 days ago, we didn't even have flights. 3 weeks ago, we weren't even thinking about Ireland. But a last-minute spring break deal popped up, and as a family of 4 with a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, we decided to just go for it. In this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes of the absolute whirlwind that was our planning process. From choosing where to visit with zero prior knowledge of Ireland to packing everyone into carry-ons, I'm showing you exactly how we moved from should we to we're here. And then at the end of the video, I will share with you my big 5 or the 5 most important things you need to book or think about when planning international travel. Let's get to planning. So it started on day -1. Haley had her spring break coming up and we were back and forth for months about whether or not we wanted to take a trip or if we just wanted to stay home. And every trip we thought about or looked into just didn't feel right this time. But then Andrew saw a flight deal to Dublin. Then I did a quick hour of research to see if there was enough kid-friendly stuff for us to do in Ireland to make the flight worth it. And then it quickly started to feel like this trip was the right trip for us. Next up is day 0, and that is when we officially clicked book. After sleeping on it, we were still buzzing with excitement for this trip, and we knew we had to do it.
So we just booked a trip to Ireland in 11 days.
Then after we officially clicked book, I started working on a master to-do list of everything that we would need to do between that second and when we left for the trip. Next up is day 1 and the first official day of planning and preparing for this trip. And this day was all about information gathering.
Today has been information gathering day. However, I'm kind of at the point now where I'm like overwhelmed with recommendations and information and just so many things.
We texted friends who had been there, which was a surprisingly large amount of people. We watched hours of YouTube videos to see what options there were, where we wanted to go, all the activities that we could possibly do, and started a wish list of activities to start loosely building an itinerary. Next up, day 2 of planning for this trip. And for this day, I hit the library for some books to get the girls excited and help prepare them for this trip. Then we dove into the hardest part of this trip, and that was transportation. We are huge fans of public transportation, and compared to a lot of the other places we've been, Ireland's public transportation is not the best. So we dove into whether we needed to rent a car or if we could get away with taking public transportation. And all of that information helped us to narrow down which cities we would be visiting and how we would get around while we were there. Next up, we are going into day 3, and day 3 was all about the Airbnbs. We had finally nailed down which cities we were going to be staying in and how long we were going to be staying everywhere. So we spent close to 2 hours researching and looking for all the things that we typically look for when we're staying in an Airbnb. And then lastly, on day 3, I reached out to friends and family to start coordinating pet sitting for our dog and our transportation to the airport. Now, I will pause to do a quick check-in here of how I was doing emotionally. When we booked the trip, I was so excited. I was so glad we were going somewhere we were going to experience something new, and it was all about the adventure and the excitement. But then the reality of the amount of work we had to do was really starting to set in.
I think I might have like a full-on panic attack breakdown.
And it wasn't really until we got through this stage where we had booked the Airbnbs where I started to feel excited again. There is so much to learn when you're going to a new country, especially the things I've already talked about: transportation, accommodations, where to even go, what you want to do on a trip, and not always feeling so overwhelming. I slept horribly.
And yes, I did sleep like garbage.
And then once we finally had all of this booked, I started to get really excited again. I could visualize what the trip was going to look like. I knew where we were going to be and what our options were for activities. And that's when the excitement really started to kick in. Day 4 was for booking. In all of our research, we came across so many cool activities for both the girls and for us. And today was the day where we were finally going to sit down and book those experiences. Especially since now we knew exactly where we were staying and how long we had in each place. We knew which activities we could fit in, and we were able to puzzle them all together to find a perfect itinerary for us. All right, now by day 5, all of the things that I had panic purchased for this trip had started to roll in. So day 5 was all about unboxing these things and deciding what was worth keeping and what was going to need to go back. Anything from inflatable booster seats for the girls for public transportation to new walking shoes and clothes for myself. I had bought a lot of things. Half of it I returned, but sorting through all my panic purchases also gave me a jump start on packing, and I was able to start putting things aside so that I could throw everything in the suitcase in just a couple of days. So day 6 was all about prep for our kids. Now at this point, it was the weekend and they knew we were going on a trip. They knew we were going to Ireland, but they didn't really know much about what Ireland was, except for what they had learned in school during their St. Patrick's Day celebrations the week before. So we sat down, we read the books I got from the library, we watched some YouTube videos to see some of the activities that we were going to do, some of the food that we would eat, all of those things that we would experience. And then I also personally worked on making a scavenger hunt for the girls. This is something that we did on a trip to Italy last year, and Haley absolutely loved it, and I knew Delaney was ready to do it this time too. So since I knew what experiences we were going to be doing on the trip and the things that they would pretty much definitely see, I went into Canva, made a free scavenger hunt really quick, and was so excited to have that finished for our trip. So now on day 7, we actually went back and revisited all of the transportation stuff. We did mostly research at the beginning, but day 7 was all about booking transportation. We knew that we needed a way to get from Dublin to Galway all the way across the country, so we needed to book train tickets for that. But we also needed a way to get from the airport to the train station in Dublin, because the airport and the city are really not that close together. So we researched airport transportation, accommodation, booked our train tickets across the country, and then also looked a little bit into what the Uber or taxi situation was so that we were prepared for that should we need it anytime throughout our trip in Ireland. So day 8, we actually went to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. So we had been so immersed in planning, we were so overwhelmed, so exhausted that we decided that we needed to have a day of fun. Haley's spring break had started, Delaney had never been, and we decided we just need to go out and have fun. But the best part about Busch Gardens, Williamsburg is that it is actually themed after Europe, and each part of the theme park is themed after a different country, and luckily they had Ireland, and they were also having their St. Patrick's Day celebration. So we enjoyed all the things that the park has to offer, but most importantly, we went to Ireland to mentally prepare ourselves for our trip that was coming up in just a couple of days. All right, day 9, our time to prepare for this trip was quickly winding down, and now it was finally time to start packing. All of the laundry was done, all of the panic purchases had been put into a pile, and I was ready to pack all of the clothes and toys and anything that we could possibly need for our family. I also made sure to include any sort of tech-related gear that we would need, such as plug adapters, charging cables, and power banks for charging our phone on our crazy long adventure days. And of course, I couldn't forget our extra euros from a previous trip. All right, day 10 was my last full day of prep, and this was all about the confirmation. I'd gotten most of my packing done the day before, except for the last minute things that you can't pack until the day you leave. And this was my time to check in with our Airbnb hostesses to make sure they knew what time we would be arriving, what time we could check in, if we could leave our luggage, if our Airbnb wasn't ready in time, and just any other last minute information that I needed to coordinate with them. I also made sure to go through the check-in process for our first Airbnb in case for some reason I didn't have service or anything like that. I knew exactly what I was looking for, any codes I needed. I had that all saved and written down so that I was prepared when we got there. Lastly, I also went over our itinerary one more time to make sure there weren't any holes in our activities and that there wasn't anything that I needed to last minute book or prepare for leading into the trip. And then finally, we made it. Day 11, this was our travel day. I packed up any last minute stuff, stuffies and blankets for the girls, charging cables, medications, anything we need last minute. And then we hit the road, drove 2 hours up to Dulles, and it was time for us to go to Ireland. So I know 11 days sounds like a lot of chaos, but looking back, there are only 5 main pillars that you need to nail down in order to make a trip like this happen. So if you're staring at flights right now and you're wondering if you can make it happen, these are the 5 things that you absolutely need to do to prepare for an international trip. So number 1, book the flights. This is something I will always support you doing no matter how many days you have to prepare. But once you have the flights, that means you know you're going, you know when you're getting there, you know when you're leaving, and you can begin to prepare your next family adventure. Step 2 is map your itinerary. You do not need a minute-by-minute schedule, especially if you're traveling with kids. You absolutely need to build in some free time for them to adjust and just enjoy being kids. But you do need to know what cities you're visiting and to make sure that those cities have kid-friendly activities that you and your kids actually want to do so that you can fill in all that time in your itinerary. Number 3 is a big one, and that is transportation. Now, this also kind of ends up weaving into the previous and the following tips, and that is what kind of transportation you're going to take. Are you just going to rely on public transportation? And if you're going to Europe, chances are you probably can just rely on public transportation because it is significantly better and easier to get from place to place in Europe than it is anywhere here in America. But sometimes, maybe depending on your itinerary and the things that you absolutely want to do, it is easier for you to rent a car. So look into that information, especially for us in Ireland. They drive on the opposite side of the road, and there are a lot of like narrow, windy roads, and we have a kid who gets car sick. So for us, that just didn't feel right, especially on this trip. So look into that information, decide what kinds of transportation is available and what you want to take, and make those decisions because that will also help feed your itinerary as well. And also, since we're talking about kids, you also need to know whether or not you need to bring a car seat or a booster seat or rent one or all of those kind of fun logistics. So make sure that you are paying attention to transportation before you get too excited about an idea. All right, and number 4 is accommodations. And so this, well, you have to have your itinerary, you have to know how you're going to get there before you can pick your accommodations. And you also need to keep in mind that if you are in a last minute planning process like we were, your choices might be limited of where you can stay. So make sure you nail all of these things down fairly quickly so that you have time to find a place that will meet all of your needs, especially if you're traveling with kids and you need a high chair or a crib, or see if they have a stroller, or back to transportation if you're renting a car, see if they have a parking place. There's a lot of little pieces that need to work together, but you kind of figure all of these things out at the same time, but you need to know how you're getting around and where you're going before you can book your accommodations. And then finally, the last thing you have to do to prepare for a trip is to pack. For us, we really love the less is more philosophy. We try to pack in only carry-ons, so that helps in a last minute sprint. It's not like we're trying to pack a ton of things. We really limit ourselves down. And on this trip, if you watch our Pack With Me video, you'll see I tried the Sudoku method of packing, where I brought 9 main pieces of clothing and mixed and matched them throughout the trip. And that was actually really nice because I didn't have to really overly think my outfits. And I found it to be a really simple method that helped me cut down on the number of stuff I was bringing. And if you can fit it all in a carry-on, not only will you save time in the amount of stuff that you're packing, but you will also save money on those checked bag fees. So that's it. All you need are of flights, itinerary, transportation, accommodations, and to pack all of your stuff. So if you can simplify it down to just those 5 things, it will make the planning process so much easier, and before you know it, you'll be ready to head out on your trip. So thank you so much for watching today. If you're planning your own last minute trip, please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear where you're going, how much time you've had to prepare, and any questions that you might have about what you need to think about before you head out on your trip. Also, don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful, and click that subscribe button so you can follow along for more family travel tips, family travel inspiration, or if you just want to see how the rest of this Ireland trip went. We would love to have you here. So thank you so much for watching today, and we will see you in Ireland.